Imagine this. What if you could genuinely transform the way you learn? I mean, really move beyond just memorizing facts.
Yeah, to actually mastering new information, remembering it for good.
And maybe even, dare I say, enjoying the process. We're talking about unlocking some really effective study techniques, the kind used by the brightest minds, drawn right from the research and insights you shared with us.
Absolutely. And it's not about expensive tools or anything exclusive like that. It's about smart, effective strategies. What this deep dive into your sources shows is a collection of techniques that are actually really accessible.
Accessible to anyone, right?
Exactly. Whether you're tackling a new language, say English, or prepping for a big meeting, or maybe just diving into a complex new subject, the main goal here is gaining that knowledge quickly, thoroughly.
And crucially, without feeling totally overwhelmed by all the information coming at you.
Precisely. Avoiding that information overload.
Okay, so our mission today is pretty clear then. We're going to unpack 10 powerful techniques that can genuinely reshape your learning journey.
We'll break down some, sometimes complex ideas into simple, actionable steps.
And I promise you, there are some really surprising insights and real-world applications here. Stuff that might just make you rethink how you approach learning, like starting today.
Let's get into it.
So let's start with a pretty fundamental shift. It's called active recall. Now, for a lot of us, studying means, well, rereading notes, maybe highlighting text.
Yeah, the usual passive stuff.
Right, as passives, like hoping the information will just sort of soak in.
Yeah.
But active recall, fundamentally different. It's about actively pulling that information out of your brain, forcing your mind to actually do the work.
Exactly. That word recall, it just means retrieving information from your memory, but without any hints or cues. Think of it like a mental workout,
Right.
Instead of passively glancing at the answer, you're actively generating it yourself. So for English learning, maybe after reading about some new idioms, you actually close the book.
No peeking.
No peeking. And you try to write down or maybe just say aloud what spill the beans means. Or perhaps try using break a leg in a sentence you make up. This active effort, it's not just about strengthening memory faster, though it does that like training a muscle. It's also this powerful diagnostic tool.
Ah, okay. How so?
Well, our sources really highlight this. Top learners use active recall not just to figure out what they don't know, but to see how they're thinking about it. It reveals if maybe they've formed a slightly faulty mental model.
I see. So it's deeper than just, do I know the fact?
Exactly. It's about really understanding your own understanding.
That makes a lot of sense, getting at those sort of underlying mental maps. Okay, so once you've pulled that information out using active recall, how do you make sure it actually sticks, for the long haul?
Well, that's where our second technique, spaced repetition, becomes like your secret weapon.
Right, because we've all done it, haven't we? The cramming. Learning tons of stuff in a short burst, usually right before a test or a deadline.
And then poof, it's gone a few days later. It's exactly. Vanished.
Precisely. Spaced repetition is, you could say, the ultimate antidote to cramming. It means reviewing the same information multiple times, but, and this is key over increasing intervals of time.
Increasing intervals.
Yeah, so say you learn a new word today, like reluctant, meaning you don't really want to do something. You might review it tomorrow, then maybe again in 3 days, then maybe next week.
Okay, I get it. The gaps get bigger.
Exactly. The terms spaced, meaning spread out, and repetition, doing it again and again, they define it perfectly. And there are smart apps like Anki or Quizlet, which are fantastic for this.
Oh yeah, I've heard of those.
They automate the process, showing you the cards you find difficult more often, and the easier ones less often. It basically works with your brain's natural forgetting curve.
So it pushes stuff from short term, exactly, into your long-term storage.
Yeah.
For lasting retention, And what's interesting is that our research suggests advanced learners often even customize these intervals, kind of fine-tuning them based on how well they recall things personally, makes it super efficient, especially for complex stuff like language.
That customization sounds really powerful.
Yeah.
Okay, building on that foundation, recalling efficiently, making it stick, let's talk about really mastering a subject, getting that deep understanding.
Right.
Our next technique, it's named after a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, Richard Feynman. He was famous for making complex ideas seem simple. It's called the Feynman technique.
And it's powerful precisely because it demands that deep understanding. It's not just about recognizing something, it's about truly grasping it. There are basically 3 key steps.
Okay, what are they?
First, you learn a topic. Could be anything, a grammar rule in English, some new vocabulary, maybe an expression like break the ice.
Got it. Step 1.
Step 2. Pretend to teach it to a child. And I mean, really, try to explain it in the simplest words possible. You can do it out loud, write it down, even record a video on your phone.
Teach it to a child.
Okay.
Why a child?
Because it forces simplicity and clarity.
Yeah.
If you can explain it so simply that a child could get it, you really understand it. Then, step 3, find the gaps.
Find the gaps.
Yeah. If you find yourself getting stuck, or you start using jargon, or you realize, hang on, I can't quite explain this part clearly, that's your signal. That tells you exactly where you need to go back and review.
I see. So it moves you from just passively taking info in
to actively teaching it, which forces you to organize your thoughts, clarify them. And the real insight here, according to our sources, is it helps you pinpoint the blind spots in how you've structured your thinking about the topic, not just, facts you forgot.
blind spots in your thinking. That's interesting.
Right. So if you can confidently explain get cold feet as, being so nervous or scared about doing something big like getting married that you decide not to do it right at the last minute, then yeah, you've probably mastered it.
That diagnostic part, finding those blind spots, seems critical. But for our listeners, what's a practical way to actually identify those gaps without just feeling discouraged? Because I think that's where a lot of people might stop.
That is a really great point. The key, I think, is changing your perspective. See those gaps not as failures, but as, opportunities.
Opportunities.
Yeah, like a little treasure map showing you where the deeper understanding lies. Be honest with yourself. Okay, I really stumbled trying to explain that bit. And then just dedicate specific, focused time to revisit only those areas. It's about being surgical, Precision learning.
I like that, surgical precision.
Sure.
Okay, shifting gears slightly, our next strategy is interleaving practice. Now, this one might feel a bit strange at first.
Yeah, it can seem counterintuitive.
Because it goes against how many of us usually study, which is what they call blocked practice, right? Focusing on just one thing for a long time.
Exactly, like drilling one type of math problem for an hour.
But the sources suggest interleaving is incredibly powerful for building mental flexibility.
It really is. Interleaving practice essentially just means you purposefully mix up different subjects or types of problems within one study session.
So instead of an hour solid on grammar.
Right. Your session might look like, say, 15 minutes of grammar, then maybe 10 minutes of vocabulary, then 10 minutes reading practice, maybe 15 minutes trying some speaking exercises, and then 10 minutes of writing.
Ah, okay. Like a mix and match session.
Kind of like a full body workout at the gym instead of just doing arm day. It forces your brain to constantly switch gears.
And why is that helpful?
Well, it profoundly improves your problem-solving skills because you have to figure out which strategy or knowledge to apply each time. It also helps you connect different ideas. And the really profound insight here, especially for language learning, is that it directly mimics how you actually use English in the real world. Real conversations aren't neatly blocked into grammar time or vocab time.
That's so true. You're constantly juggling everything.
Exactly. You're integrating grammar, vocabulary, listening, speaking all at once. So learning the word delay in isolation is one thing, but with interleaving, you might see it used in an article you're reading. Then practice using it when talking about travel plans. Then maybe hear it in a podcast clip. It forces you to become more flexible, a more well-rounded English learner.
That full body workout analogy for the brain really clicks. But okay, for someone who's used to just drilling one thing, what's the biggest hurdle they might face when they first try interleaving? And, how do they get past it?
I think the biggest hurdle is often the feeling that you're not going deep enough into any single topic. It can feel less efficient in the short term because you're switching before you feel like a complete master of one small thing.
Right, that feeling of not quite finishing.
Exactly. The key is to trust the process. You have to sort of embrace that initial discomfort. Maybe start small. Try interleaving just 2 topics in a session, then gradually add more. You'll find that even though you might not feel like an instant expert in one narrow area, your overall ability to actually apply and connect information across different situations will skyrocket.
Trust the process. Okay. Now, it's so easy to fall into the trap of just busy work when studying, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Spending hours watching random videos, flipping through pages.
And then you look up and realize you haven't actually absorbed anything deeply. That's a common frustration, I think. And it brings us to a really crucial habit that top students share. They don't just study. They plan with purpose. They set clear goals.
That's exactly right. Goal setting is what transforms that kind of aimless activity into directed, meaningful progress. So instead of a vague goal like, oh, I'll study phrasal verbs sometime this week.
Which probably means never.
Right. A clear, focused goal would be something like, today, between 2 and 3 p.m., I will learn 10 new phrasal verbs related to travel, and I will write 2 example sentences for each one.
Much more specific. And phrasal verbs, you mentioned they're those tricky verb preposition combos, right?
Exactly. Common but tricky because the meaning often changes completely from the original verb, like get by or look after. Setting specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. The SMART goals framework gives your brain a clear roadmap.
And motivation, too, I bet.
Absolutely. A
Yeah.
powerful surge of motivation. And your goals don't have to be huge. They can be small, but still incredibly impactful. Like, I'll read 1 news article today and highlight 5 new words, or I'll watch 1 TED Talk and write a short summary.
Makes sense.
And the real insight from our sources here is that students who consistently hit their goals, even the small ones, build this powerful sense of self-efficacy, like, I can do this. And that momentum fuels more learning over the long run.
That focused approach just feels much more intentional.
Okay, speaking of structured study, let's talk about the Pomodoro method. This one's super popular, right? A time management technique.
Very popular. And it has that charming origin story with Francesco Cirillo and his tomato-shaped kitchen timer.
Right. Pomodoro means tomato of Italian.
Exactly. But you don't need a tomato timer, obviously. Any timer works. The process is beautifully simple. You set a timer for 25 minutes, that's 1 Pomodoro session, and you focus intensely on only one task. No distractions allowed.
25 minutes, total focus. Then what?
When the timer rings, you take a short break, usually about 5 minutes. Get up, stretch, grab water, whatever. Then after you complete 4 of these Pomodoro sessions, you take a longer break, maybe 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay, why does this work so well?
It seems to be rooted in how our brains actually function. Research suggests human concentration tends to dip quite significantly after about 25 or 30 minutes of sustained effort on one thing.
So it works with our natural attention span. Exactly. It keeps your brain feeling fresh, energized, and productive. It helps prevent that feeling of burnout and lets you genuinely recharge during the breaks. But our sources emphasize something important.
What's that?
The real magic isn't just the timing itself. It's the strict commitment to what's often called deep work during those 25 minutes, training your brain to ignore distractions. It builds this really strong habit of focused, studied discipline. It's about creating a consistent rhythm for intense focus.
I can definitely see how that would build discipline. I've tried it myself, and those short, focused bursts really do train your concentration muscle. Okay, our next technique sounds like one of the most powerful and maybe surprisingly fun ways to learn.
Oh.
There's that old saying, when you teach, you learn twice. And it seems really true with this next one. Teach what you learn.
Oh, it absolutely does. This technique is closely related to the Feynman technique we talked about, but maybe a bit more interactive. It forces you to review information, organize it logically, and truly understand it deeply, not just recognize the words.
How does teaching force that?
Well, just the act of preparing to teach something makes you automatically realize where the gaps are in your own knowledge. You think, how would I explain this clearly? And you can teach anyone. A friend, a family member.
Or even just talk to your phone.
Exactly. Record yourself pretending to give a lesson. For instance, say you learned 5 new idioms. Idioms being those phrases where the meaning isn't obvious from the individual words, like hit the books, meaning to study hard.
Right.
You could say to your friend or your phone, okay, today I'll teach you 5 cool idioms. Let's start with break the ice. It means to start a conversation in a friendly way, especially with someone new. Then you'd give an example sentence.
I see. So the process of explaining it out loud
Helps solidify the concepts in your own mind. It forces you to organize your thoughts, identify weak spots you might not have noticed, and it builds incredible confidence in actually using the language, explaining ideas clearly and naturally in English. Our research suggests that articulating knowledge aloud actually engages different cognitive pathways, leading to stronger, more resilient memories.
It really sounds like a fantastic way to internalize things.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you genuinely don't have someone readily available to teach? Is just, talking it through to yourself still effective?
Oh, absolutely. Even explaining it to an imaginary audience in the room, or like we said, recording yourself on your phone, the benefit is still immense. The crucial part is the act of organizing your thoughts into a coherent explanation and articulating them aloud. That forces the deep processing, whether there's a live audience listening or not.
Good to know. Okay, here's where we get maybe to the heart of what sets top students apart. Beyond just techniques, our 8th technique is simply to stay curious. You hear about students at places like Harvard. They don't just learn to pass exams, right? They seem driven to understand the world, and they often genuinely enjoy the process of discovery.
That's a key insight. Curiosity, that strong desire to know or learn something, it really does transform study sessions. It shifts them from being a chore.
Which is how studying feels sometimes, let's be honest. A chore.
Exactly. A routine, often boring task. Curiosity turns it into an adventure. Imagine you're reading and you encounter a new, slightly formal word like notwithstanding.
Okay.
Instead of just skipping over it, if you're curious, you actively pause and explore it. What does that really mean? Where does it come from? How is it used? You discover it means something like despite or in spite of, as in, notwithstanding the heavy rain, the football match continued.
Right. You dig a little deeper.
And that active, intrinsically motivated exploration creates this deeper emotional connection to what you're learning. It makes the information stick much better, and it helps you integrate it into your existing knowledge. It fundamentally changes your engagement with English, shifting it from something you have to do to something you genuinely want to explore. Real-world context becomes central.
That emotional connection, that wanting to know, feels absolutely key. And speaking of context, that leads perfectly into our 9th technique. Learn with context. This tackles a really common and critical mistake.
Which is
memorizing individual words completely in isolation. Just lists of words with no idea how they're actually used, which almost always leads to confusion and, well, forgetting them pretty quickly.
Oh, absolutely. That's a recipe for frustration. The true secret of top learners, the sources really emphasize this, is to learn with context.
Okay, define context for us here.
Context is basically the surrounding words or the situation that give meaning to a specific word or phrase. Think of it like the background in a picture. It helps you understand the main subject properly.
Right. Like seeing a word used in a sentence.
Exactly. If you just see the word consequence written alone, it might be a bit abstract. But if you see it in a sentence like, if you don't study for the exam, the consequence is likely failing, it's meaning the result or outcome of an action becomes crystal clear.
So practically, how do you do this?
When you learn a new word, say hesitate, don't just write the word and its definition. Always write down a full sentence where it's naturally used. Note the situation it applies to, and then, crucially, create your own sentence using the word.
Make it active again.
Yes. So, you see, she hesitated before answering the difficult question. You understand it means she paused. Then you might write, I hesitated before ordering the spicy dish because I wasn't sure I'd like it. This approach makes English feel more natural, much more memorable, and more real. It mirrors how native speakers actually acquire language subconsciously. It helps you build a language knowledge that truly lives and breathes.
A living language, not just a dead list of words. I like that.
And our sources suggest this actually builds richer semantic networks in your brain. It connects the new word to lots of things you already know, which is absolutely crucial for being able to recall and use it fluently later on.
That makes so much sense. Okay, we're on to our final technique. It sounds simple, but you said it's incredibly powerful and maybe one that's often forgotten.
Yes, absolutely. It's reflect and review.
Reflect and review.
Okay. Reflection here just means to think deeply or carefully about something. So after each study session, maybe just for 5 minutes, you pause and ask yourself 3 simple questions.
What are they?
What did I learn today? What did I find difficult or confusing? And based on that, what should I make sure to review tomorrow or soon?
So it's not just recalling facts again.
No, it's more about metacognition, thinking about your own thinking and learning process. You ask yourself, what study strategies worked well for me just now? What didn't feel effective? Where do I feel like I'm making progress? Where am I still getting stuck?
And maybe writing this down.
Yes, keeping a simple study journal for these reflections can be immensely helpful. It makes your learning much more intentional. It builds this profound awareness of how your brain works best. This is really how high-level learners manage to study smarter, not just harder. They stay on track by identifying problems early and proactively adjusting their approach. It makes their whole learning journey incredibly efficient and adaptable.
Okay, so there we have it. 10 really powerful tools to help you learn more like a top student, drawing directly on these principles from places like Harvard and beyond. Let's just quickly recap them one last time.
Sounds good.
We had active recall,
Spaced repetition.
the Feynman technique,
Interleaving practice.
set clear goals,
The Pomodoro method.
teach what you learn,
Stay curious.
learn with context.
And finally, reflect and review.
Now, obviously, these aren't magic pills, right?
Mhm.
They require actual effort and consistency.
Definitely. But the encouraging thing is, if you just pick even one of these to try today, maybe try using active recall on some new vocabulary words you learned, or perhaps try explaining something new you learned to a friend or family member later.
Just start somewhere small.
Exactly. You'll likely start seeing a tangible difference quite quickly in how much information actually sticks. And remember, learning English, or mastering any new skill for that matter, it's really not a race. It's a journey. And these tools are designed to make that journey more effective, yes, but also hopefully more enjoyable and profoundly more rewarding in the end.
And as you go on that journey, here's a final thought to maybe mull over. Consider not just what you're learning, but really focus on how you're learning it. What if that very act of reflection, consciously looking at your study habits, understanding your own unique brain, and then strategically adjusting your approach based on those insights we've talked about? What if that is the single greatest shortcut to deeper understanding and truly lasting retention? maybe even more powerful than any one specific technique on its own.
That's a powerful thought.
Something to think about as you apply these insights to your own learning journey and really start to make these techniques yours.